So March of 2020, the shelter in place orders come down. And if you recall, it was not the most optimistic mood on Wall Street. I think everybody was very worried. And we were someone who took credit risk. And so we were looking at our credit risk measures, and we were in, pretty full, all hands on deck. Let's manage the business through what we thought was going to be a very turbulent period. And it wasn't but 60 days later that we realized that reaction was while appropriate, it had missed the broader point. Our business was actually thriving in an environment where e-commerce was becoming more a part of how people were going to get the things that they want and need, given our position at the point of sale. And the categories we're in were doubly so relevant for consumers. Our largest merchant at the time was selling exercise equipment at the home, and we were heavy in helping people buy office furniture for their house. And so the tailwinds that happened for us were very, very real. And it was that summer when Max and I were on the phone. Again, we were remote the whole time. We were on the phone, and we were like, is this the time we're supposed to do it? And what we saw was we weren't ready. So everybody talks about IPO readiness. We weren't ready. We hadn't done any work. We had a good business, and we saw an equity capital market that was willing to reward the kind of business that we were. And we said, that won't exist forever. That is a thing that comes and goes. So we're going to go public, but only if we can do it quickly. And we called the banks in July and said, help us put together the IPO process. And they're like, okay, cool. We can start now. We'll list you next June or something like that. And we're like, no, we want to get out before the election. And so they were like, they took a big breath, and they're like, that's not possible. And the mindset that we took on the team was like, we need to go now, because the equity capital markets are telling the market something. They're telling us that the kind of business that we are is going to get funding. And we didn't hit the election window, but we did get out early in January the following year. And it was so important for us because we were able to raise the capital we needed for the business. It also allowed us, because we were public, we did a convertible debt issuance later that year. Between those two things, we put $3 billion of capital into the business. And I look back on it, and the moment and the realization that's so important is there's things you can control and things you can't. You can't control where the market's at in its cycle. That's a thing that is the environment you're operating in. What you can control is how you choose to engage with it. And we chose at the time that we needed to go engage with the equity capital markets because it was constructive. If we had waited a year, the market would have turned pretty materially, and that wouldn't have been on the table. And recognizing the things you can control and you can't, and being humble enough to say, this is an opportunity and we can't change that. That's the game that's being played. That is the way the market is valuing companies, and being humble enough to recognize that you don't control that is the context you have to operate in, and then go take advantage of it. It's a bit like my personal career. It's less about having a specific vision and more around being open-minded to the opportunities as they present themselves. And we certainly did that. And we had along the way 100 reasons why we could have said no. We weren't ready. We didn't have SOX yet. Hadn't hired a head of IR yet. I still had 2 auditors. We had 2 different auditors for the 2 years preceding the IPO, like a big no-no for anybody who's advising you. And we didn't accept any of that because we said, this is a hard thing, but that's what we do at Affirm. We do hard things. We're going to go figure this one out. And it was all because we recognized there was a thing out there that we couldn't control, which was the state of the equity capital markets. And it was our job not to change those, but to play in them and let the market decide, not us try to tell the market.
CFO Thought Leader is made possible by Planful.